Welcome to the Athletic Football Show pick segment. I'm Robert Mays. Joining me today, my good friends Nate Tice and Sheil Kapadia. Sheil, what a huge week for you last week. Just roaring back after a couple slip-ups. Not only are you getting hot, but you're getting hot at the right time.
Yeah, that's right. I think the local Sixers announcer used to always say first half for show, second half for dough. That always stuck with me. I guess it's not quite the same. I mean, we're way past the second half, so I screwed up a lot in the second half. But Nate was right on me. I tried to put the jinx on him last week and talk about how great he was, and he still did pretty well. But man, the lock will either be your best friend or your biggest enemy, and I lucked out on that last week.
So you came into last week up by 1 point, but you go 3 for 3, hit your lukewarm lock of the week, which was the Bengals plus 2.5. You had to sweat that out a little bit. That's an ugly game to have bet on and having one of those teams on one of those sides. Nate goes 2-1, but he misses his lock on the Packers. We were talking before we started recording. What's your guys' record over the past 3 weeks combined?
Was it?
What did I say?
15 and 3?
15-3 over the last 3 weeks.
This week's not going to go well after we said that.
I know. Yeah, we're double jinxing it. Maybe double jinx. It's like the Monstars touching the basketball. That's what it feels like right now. We're just getting our powers sucked out right now.
That lock is haunting Nate, though, because if he gets that, we're sitting there still a 1 point game. Instead, he's down by 5. Nate, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. When you miss your lock during holiday season, you got to do something nice involving a charity or a cause associated with the team that you bet on or the team that you bet against. What did you do after you losing your lock this week?
Yeah, well, after I got Tyler Huntley and almost got Jake Fromm as well. I donated.
Jake Fromm, you would have been done. There's no way you.
Yeah. Marissa was taking over for me. I was bringing in the ready if that happened. But yeah, after those instances, it was great because I got to donate to the Greater Green Bay Boys and Girls Club, which I am very attached to. Just the Boys and Girls Club nationally. My dad does a lot of good causes for them with his charity as well. Just think they're a great organization and what they do for kids that, give them activities to do after school, which I think is so important, and get them just around good people. So happy to do that. I was able to, of course, I had to be a 31-point score from the Packers. I rounded up to an even $100. So I'm happy to do it, though. It's for a good cause. So yeah.
Sometimes you get Tyler Huntley. That's just how it goes. So Sheil, Nate was kicking us off for a couple straight weeks because he kept winning somehow. Now, after your win last week, you get the privilege of going first. What do you got for me? What's your first pick for week 16?
A couple straight weeks. I feel like it was Halloween the last time I led this thing off. Nate's been on fire. It's been a while. All right, I'm gonna. Nate would start it out with the lock, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start it out with the lock, and I'm going against what I did the past few weeks where I'm picking from 6 different games spur of the moment. I've actually got 3 written down, so there's a chance we duplicate this week, Nate, because I've got no backups here. But for my lock, I am going to go with the Los Angeles Rams -3 at Nate's Minnesota Vikings. I'm just saying, let's go into battle. Nate likes both these teams, so I don't know who he would want in this one, but I'm just looking at this game. Dalvin Cook is out. It's unclear whether the Vikings will get Adam Thielen back as we're recording this here. Kirk Cousins, the last 2 weeks, Chad Graff had the numbers on The Athletic, completing 47% of his passes, averaging 5.5 yards per attempt, 3 interceptions, 4 sacks. I mean, their offense, as Robert, you saw in person there, was not exactly impressive on Monday night. So I'm fading the Vikings a little bit here. I saw Justin Jefferson today was talking about how he can't wait for this matchup against Jalen Ramsey. I can't wait to watch that. But this game, if it goes poorly for the Vikings, can't you just picture Cousins is not giving Jefferson chances? He feels like he has opportunities. He's going nuts on the sideline. After the game, he's talking about how Joe Burrow's better, that, he wishes Joe Burrow was his. I mean, it could go a number of different ways. This Vikings team has overtaken like every other Seahawks team from previous years. It's just the weirdest team in the NFL. Something nuts happens every week. So I fully expect to be sweating this out. If they just forced Matthew Stafford into 4 interceptions, that would not shock me either, because you never know what you're getting with them. But I'm going to go with the Rams -3 here.
as someone heavily invested in Matthew Stafford in a fantasy semifinal matchup this weekend, I've been thinking about this game a lot. The Rams offense side of this, the last time that Sean McVay played against Mike Zimmer, he put him in a wood chipper. It was that 2018 game when they played against, it was at the Coliseum, that ridiculous Jared Goff game where they absolutely torched the Vikings defense. A lot has changed since then, but that's the lasting memory I have of these two teams playing against each other.
Yeah.
When the Vikings have the ball, I mean, they couldn't do anything last week with only having Jefferson out there. I thought the Bears' game plan essentially saying, we are going to bracket him on every single play. There are going to be 2 guys on him on every single play. The other guys are going to beat us. Did not go well. KJ Osborne, and even though Amir Smith-Marset had that touchdown, it was a really good strategy to say the other guys on this team, the other receiving options are going to have to beat us. That was not on the table against a Bears team that had 0 professional cornerbacks on it going against an actual Rams defense. I'll be curious to see what it looks like.
And I actually almost picked the same game, but I didn't. So I'm actually, this is, I think that's telling. I think we're on a good track now.
Were you going to pick the same side, or did you like
same side?
Oh,
same side. I had a fourth
game.
And I wish I could send you my notes right now to give you a screenshot of it, but it says Rams -3 at Vikings, exclamation point, exclamation point. Like, so no to throw that one off. So that's great. As much as I want to see ISM, Mr. Smith-Marset go off for about 8 catches and 120 yards. We'll see. We'll see if that's possible for this Vikings team that threw for what, like 78 yards on Monday night.
It was disgusting. Yeah. I will say it was pretty great to be in person for the Amir Smith-Marset touchdown. I feel like I had some hand in that. Indirectly, I feel like the Athletic Football Show energy informed the Amir Smith-Marset touchdown. We're going to take
Stars
some credit
aligned.
for that. Yeah, there's
Stars
no doubt.
Aligned. Yeah.
All right, absolutely. Nate, what do you got for me? What's your first one?
All right, since I'm not doing that one, I do have these other 3 games, and I'm going to start with a lukewarm lock. Just got to keep the good vibes going, I guess. I'm going to go with a team that I do think is going to go nuclear. Robert and I talked about this earlier, but I'm going to go with the Cowboys -10.5 hosting Washington. The matchup is, I don't think this Washington offensive line is going to be able to hold up against this Cowboys defensive line. And really, it's everything I said last week when I picked the Cowboys, I could really carry over. So check that out if you guys are very curious about seeing that on YouTube or wherever you find your podcasts. But really, I just think that's the match that it's with this Washington team. Like, they had a chance. Okay, maybe we make a playoff run, but it just feels, I think now they're hitting that mode of let's get to the end of the season. I mean, they're going through COVID stuff right now. I think they're on their 4th-string center, maybe 5th-string center, who's also a plus-size model, which is like one of the most hilarious tidbits I've read this entire season. Which it's
funny until the Cowboys come to town, then it becomes less funny.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's a model. Yeah, it's not going to be pretty, I don't think. But I also do think this Cowboys offense is it's hilarious that, like, every time I watch them on Sundays, I'm just like, what is this team? I'm getting pissed. I'm tweeting about Jake Fromm. I'm ready to throw myself off a bridge. And then, like, all of a sudden I just watch this team back on tape and watch them on the film. And I'm like, oh, this team's about to blow up. Like, this team is about to, like, drop 40 on somebody. And it's just, hopefully it's now when I bet on them at 10.5. So that's why I'm betting on. I think they're at home as well. I think, that's going to help as well. And I just really think this Cowboys team's a really good team hasn't put a complete game together in a few weeks, actually quite a while. And they're getting healthier. They're figuring out, they're gelling together. Just think it's now. I'm bet on that this week that they're going to really not only just cover the 10.5, but really blow the door open on this Washington team.
Sheil, what's your second one, bud?
All right, second pick. I am going to Green Bay and taking the Packers -7.5 against the Cleveland Browns. I just look at the Packers, EPA per drive, whatever you look at it, they're either the first or the second best offense in the NFL. That's including the Jordan Love game. I mean, if you take that off, then it's the gap even expands a little bit between them and whoever's in second place. So you guys talked about it, during the Sunday late night pod, and I just think Aaron Rodgers has been the best player in the NFL over the last month. I mean, he has looked like unstoppable. They have answers for everything. You're not going to confuse them. They have Devontae Adams every week. They're able to make it work even when they got backup offensive linemen in there. And then you look at the Browns. I mean, Myles Garrett's questionable for this game with a groin injury. And so even if he plays, probably not going to be 100%. And they've got those 2 AFC North matchups to close out the season, which are really, you know, every game's important at this stage, but those are really probably going to be the ones that determine whether they're able to sneak into the playoffs, steal the AFC North or not. So I look at that Browns defense versus the Packers offense. It would make me very nervous if I were Cleveland. So maybe the Browns move the ball a little bit against the Packers defense. I could see that happening, but the Packers have just been so good at home with this LaFleur-Rodgers combination. 16-6 against the spread at home with those two guys. So it's not going to last forever. Maybe this is the week it goes in the opposite direction. That's how you have to think as a paranoid sports bettor. But at the same time, I'll just keep rolling with it until it hurts me.
With the Browns, it's one of those things where you think, all right, they can tap into their running game if they need something, right? If there is an aspect of their offense, like even if the passing game has been uneven, they can just lean on the running game. That's really difficult to do when you're shuffling offensive linemen in and out. For the last 5 or 6 weeks. Guys are injured. Guys have COVID. To be clear, big fan of the Browns' backup offensive lineman. Huge supporter of their work here, as our producer Marissa is also. But at the same time, when you have all those moving pieces, it's really difficult to be that run game machine like we've seen in years past. Jedrick Wills is still on the COVID list, I believe. J.C. Treader just went on it today. There's just been so many rotating pieces with their offense that they've struggled to find a groove, even with what we consider the best run game in the NFL. And I think that just having nothing to really consistently tap into has been a huge problem for them. They're going to need to score against this Packers team. They're not going to win a 17-14 game against Green Bay like they've been able to over the last month here against some other teams. So I totally understand where you're going with that, Sheil. Nate, what do you got for me, buddy? What's your second one?
Yeah, hearing all that praise with the Packers is making me go like, why the hell did I not look at that game as well? But really, because if anytime you get a chance to bet on Ian Book, you do it. I'm going with the Saints plus 1.5. Hosting the Dolphins. Yes.
Oh
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Anytime you get to do it, I can't believe
what is happening here, Rob? I mean, you thought I had like a Steelers addiction. I mean, we might need to stop the recording. Do you need to talk to your Ian? Oh my God. I can't wait to hear this.
I know.
I like their defense.
I'm sure this is what happened, right? We're looking at this game. Probably yesterday, the day before, you're looking at your picks thinking, oh, that looks nice. That looks good. The Saints against the Dolphins, that's pretty juicy. I like the Saints defense against the Dolphins. And then the book news comes out, and then you have to decide, do I still like this? And this is where you came down. You're like, yeah, Ian Book is enough for me to still like this game. Is that accurate? Am I painting the picture correctly?
Earlier this week, this line was -3, and I really like the Saints -3 at home. And now that's how much Ian Book going from Taysom Hill to Ian Book is 4.5 points. Apparently,
4.5, yeah.
Oh boy, but I'm going to do it. And really, what I'm betting on, and just kind of similar, not really. That's a completely different sentiment, but really betting on the Saints defense here. Really taking it to Tua. They don't have to blitz. That's already an advantage when you're playing against a team that relies so much on RPOs. And they can just sit in their shells and play top down against this quarterback in this offense.
Just knock them around. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, just the out physical a team in man coverage against RPOs. That's a decided advantage. It feels like
that's really what I'm betting on. And I'm betting and kind of carrying over what I've said about what Sean Payton's doing with Taysom Hill is I think he's just going to jerry rig this offense and just with wires and toothpicks and everything just to make it look competent. And I think really too, sometimes you get these guys we talked about numerous times is Sean Payton, these good play callers get bored. I think they like challenges like this. I think he's just going, I selected this guy in the 6th round. I took him. What was it?
I think it was the 4th round, wasn't it?
Oh my God, was it? Oh God, I had a late. Maybe it was just my grade on him. I think I had an undraftable grade on him.
4th round, just pulling that shit out of nowhere. Look at me go.
Oh God. Okay, yeah. So 4th round. Oh man, Sean Payton, no quarterbacks or what? But really, I'm betting that this guy can create some plays, do enough in the passing game, and just get a run game going with them with Melvin Ingram and Kamara. That's really what I'm betting on. I just think this Dolphins team is. I do like what the defense does. They live in cover 0, but that doesn't really punish what the Saints offense does. So I think that's just what I'm leaning. It's like their strength isn't what the Dolphins really defend well against. I think this can be a sloppy game. I think it's just going to be I think it's going to be real ugly. So I'm going to take the points and I'm going to take the home team. Saints plus 1.5, and they still have stuff to play for. Hopefully they didn't shoot their wad last week against the Bucs, but hopefully I can maybe just see them really beating them up front and just making it ugly on them.
This is a good
the
idea.
Fighting game books.
This is a good idea until this game is about to kick off, and you were going to be sitting there being like, "Why did I do this to myself?" Halfway through the second quarter, you were going to be just sitting there stewing in your own hatred of yourself. That's exactly what's going to happen.
See how confident I look right now? I couldn't believe the words just came out of my mouth.
I can't believe that you're choosing to do this stuff. Also, Sheil, you picking that game on Christmas, I pray for your family. I mean,
that's
you
not
get to
gonna
have a
end
day
well.
with your loved ones, and now it's going to be ruined as Aaron Rodgers throws like his fourth interception. It's tough break for you.
I threw out the Rams -3 for this game. So yeah, this is where I'm at. Let's do it. Let's screw it. Let's go for it. But yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's go fight in Irish. Let's go, buddy.
You know, as you mentioned it, I'm like, I was like, oh, you know, should the line really change 4.5 points going from Taysom Hill to Ian Book? So maybe you're onto something. I mean, that feels like a lot. Like, I don't know, is it going to be that much? They scored 9 points last week. They haven't exactly been lighting it up with Taysom Hill in there. So maybe it's not crazy. Yeah, this is like the ultimate to do not lose the game for us. If you have to just take a knee 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage to not do something stupid, go ahead and do that. Cause you're right. That Saints defense is fun. I mean, they are punishing. And so you could just see them push the Dolphins around. And to your, you know, I feel like I've sort of talked myself into it. I don't know, but you know, the Saints had all those games where they didn't have Drew Brees and they were covering week after week after week. I mean, it was incredible. And so the markets, the betting markets thought that it was more of a hit to not have Drew Brees, and they somehow found a way to win those games. So defense, special teams, maybe they lose a 10-9 game and you still cover. I like it. This gives me a reason to really tune in and focus on Monday night.
It's funny. The Dolphins have that kind of ball control offense where it's a lot of RPOs, a lot of short passes. Tua will give you a couple though. It's not as if he takes care of the ball. He'll give you a couple. Just ask the Jets last week. I mean, it feels like there are a couple moments every single game. You're like, what are you doing? And in this sort of game where it could be a 15-14 type game, that feels important.
Yeah. When Marshawn Lattimore is the guy covering instead of insert Jets corner name here, was breaking on those out routes that loop up and over out there. It's a little different speed that's going to happen there. I was just thinking about the taking the knee stuff is like at the end of Waterboy when like the bad guy team like can't move the ball. They just start taking a knee. He's like, takes a knee. No, this is genius. We're taking the Waterboy out of the game. Like, so maybe we see a little bit of that.
All right. Nate or Sheil, you can't possibly get any weirder than that with whatever you're going here next.
Well, I probably shouldn't have gone in so hard at Nate because I mentioned my own Steelers addiction, and you know who's a big underdog this week? It's Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers, baby, and that's who I'm taking for my final pick. They are 8.5 point underdogs against the Kansas City Chiefs. After last week, I think the Steelers actually flipped by kickoff, where they were favored by a point last week. But overall, Tomlin's team's 65% of the time covering against the spread as underdogs. I was surprised this line didn't move a little bit more with Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, as of this recording, are on the COVID list. They don't know if they're going to have them for this game. Maybe it won't matter. I'm not counting on the Steelers offense to do anything. They very well could lose the game for me. I could just picture, Ben Roethlisberger just in the grasp of Chris Jones flinging the ball somewhere and a pick six that cost me a cover in the fourth quarter or something. But I'm going to go with Pittsburgh's. I thought that Chiefs game was, first of all, awesome to watch last week against the Chargers, but like the way they came back, I mean, think about it. It was Mahomes' second reaction plays and Tyreek Hill and Kelce just being like, we're better than your guys. We're just going to make plays. It was just like superstars. Like it didn't matter what play was called, just doing what they needed to do. So if they're out just one of those guys, I feel like I still have some questions about that offense, especially, Steelers defense is not great, but they have some playmakers. They've gotten healthier. They have some guys who can do some things up front. So plus 8.5. I mean, come on, if anyone's been listening to this segment all year, you knew there was no way I was going to be able to resist taking that line here. So I'm sure I won't be regretting this Sunday afternoon.
I think I know what Robert just looked up, so I want to hear it.
No, so when I was every week, obviously when we do the show, I look up a ton of numbers and a ton of stats, and you come across stuff almost by accident. And I was looking up some play action numbers today, and it was actually connected to the Cowboys. It's like, oh, how much play action do the Cowboys use? The answer is not enough. But I was looking at associated play action for other people. The first thing that jumped out to me was that Justin Fields has an average depth of target of 13.3 yards on play action. Not necessarily a good thing, right? He's taking a lot of sacks,
baby.
But he is going for it. No one else is above 11 outside of Davis Mills. So Justin Fields at 13.3, supreme outlier. The other one, though, that was just incredible. Nate and I have talked about this in relation to Trevor Lawrence this year, which is pressure to sack percentage, which is PFF does. And I think it's really interesting.
Right.
On play action passes this year,
I'm
Ben
about to start crying,
Roethlisberger has been sacked on 62% of his pressures. He's been pressured 16 times. He's been sacked 10 times. Just for some context, no one else in the league is higher than 34%. So it's 62% and 34%. That is how sackable he is on those plays. That's not how often he's pressured. This is not an offensive line stat. This is how often the pressures turn into sacks. And you know what's great? When the eye test and the numbers align.
I was just
when
about
you
to say
watch
that.
him play, it's like he's sitting duck out there. He is a whale that is just, it is impossible for him to escape. And it is amazing to look that up and see it. I was so happy when I saw that percentage.
I was just going to say, it's like so clear in my head, him taking those little itty bitty choppy steps back, faking, turning around and being like, prayers up, here we go. And then
the fastest I've seen him
launching it.
The fastest I've seen him move this entire year is when he ran to the, whatever it was, the stairwell, and just started sitting there. That's the quickest I've seen him move this entire season. So
it's truly incredible. It made my day seeing that. All right, Nate,
okay.
What's your third one, buddy? What do you got for me?
I'm going, we actually kind of referred to the two opponents of this game, but I'm going to go with the Chargers -10 at the Texans. A little bigger line than maybe I wanted, but I really do think this Chargers team, since post bye week, I have to get it out of my head sometimes how I feel about their defense is because they've really improved. They've done a lot of good things. They're doing a lot more consistency to their defense and holding on drives. And then I really have initially thought, like every time I rewatch them, it's kind of like the same with the Cowboys, where it's like, hey, they're a little better than I've kind of given them credit for. Wow, Brandon Staley's a good coach. And on the other side is the offense is, we've talked enough about the fourth down stuff. They're so close. If those fourth down hits, they're blowing teams out of the water.
Yeah.
And that's
10 feels low to me. I mean, they feel like they could win this game by like 3 touchdowns with the way that their offense is playing right now.
We're forgetting the Texans have played the Jets and the Jaguars. That's
exactly.
And Davis Mills has looked better than even I've given credit for. But again, you got to remember he's playing the Jets and the Jaguars recently. So maybe I think that's in our head a little bit. And they've had guys banged up. I think Brandon Cooks might be on the COVID list as well. It's just, I don't think that we got to remember this Texas team isn't very good this year. And maybe if they're out of the spotlight. So it's kind of like, okay, maybe we haven't really noticed that. And I also just think this Chargers team is they're a lot better than even I've given credit for. They've honed, this offense is really good. They've honed in on what they are. It's a good team. It really is. And so I just think this 10 points, it can be nobody in Houston. It's going to be 10,000 people at that stadium. I think it's just, so the home field advantage isn't there. It's more of a travel advantage. If they're healthy, if really got to keep an eye on all these teams with the COVID stuff. But I think this Chargers team is close to blowing out these bad teams because they are a legit good team. So Chargers -10.
Feels like we're going to have this conversation over the next month or so. And I think we'll probably devote most of a show to it. At the Ringer, I was just to do a wild card threat index, where I think, all right, how realistic of a chance do these wild card teams have to win a playoff game, win multiple playoff games, or even win the Super Bowl? This season, it feels like we could have 4 or 5 wild card teams where you absolutely could talk yourself into that and winning the whole thing. And the Chargers are one of those teams to me. The defense is still a concern. I want to go back and watch a little bit more, but it really does feel like their offense has that ceiling right now where they could go on a run. And they have not hit in one of these games in a little while. Like the Bengals game, there was some really, really great moments. They're so close against the Chiefs. This just feels like that week where they could score 40 and be like, all right, here, remember, we're here. Like, we're really, really good on this side of the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was looking at the, I think the current playoff standings, they would go to Tennessee in the first round. And I was thinking the same thing you were. Like, shoot, I get to host a first round playoff game, and Justin Herbert is, this is the guy I have to prepare for. Like, I don't know, you could probably do a list of which quarterbacks would you least like to face in the first round, and I mean, he would probably be top 2, top 3 there. So yeah, they are, I think like you, I have sort of been, encouraged by this team. We're optimistic about this team all season. And Herbert, sometimes you take stuff for granted, or you point out one play and then you look at like the overall numbers, and it's like, shoot, they've had a top 3 offense for most of the year. And so even though they're flawed, and those flaws are going to show at times, and they're going to make you think, all right, they're not that great, I totally agree that they have that kind of dangerous, scary ceiling in a 1-game playoff for sure.
I have zero interest in seeing him. If I'm another team, I just have zero interest in a game where he's on the field. Like the volatility and the ceiling associated with their offense because of what he can do is horrifying. And we're looking at that. We're looking at a game where they are on the road as an underdog, or even not as an underdog, but according to the seedings in round 1, where I feel like they probably are going to have a pretty good chance.
Oh yeah. And we need of course we love him on this show. And of course now we every week there's a throw that he makes and everything, but it's like, he does a lot of stuff that's just incredible.
He's just good. He's not just exciting. He's just
incredibly good. Yes. And we take it for granted. I think she'll put it first. We take it for granted sometimes, because then you rewatch. He's one of those guys you rewatch and it's just like, holy crap. Like it's just, he can make a 8-yard out throw, and it's just like, not many guys are doing that better. And that's the thing, is there's no fat with his game. He's not missing chances that often. And so if you get these drives that they're moving the ball on teams, and it's just like, that's what's hilarious, is all the narrative has been about the results of those drives, but it's like, they're not like stalling and going 3 and out. It's because they're a good offense. And it's just, I think, it's just, I don't think I've even gotten the flavor of what they are yet, because I do think they're better than even I've given them credit for. So maybe this is me overcompensating for that, but I really do think they're a good, legitimately good team.
Earlier this year, Brandon Staley said to me, when we were talking about Herbert just as a thrower, he said he is a rare thrower of the football. Yeah. And when you hear a guy who's like a defensive coach and a really good defensive coach talk about it in those terms, every time I watch him now, that just plays in the back of my mind. Just rare thrower of the football. And sometimes when feels like the league is up for grabs, maybe it's overly simplifying it to say that guy who's the rare throw of the football is enough. It feels like this year he is enough to give them a chance against virtually anybody. We're getting ahead of ourselves, though. That is all we got for the Week 16 pick segment, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. For those who watch on YouTube, really appreciate it. For those listening at home, really appreciate you listening to the show. We will be back on Sunday night with me and Nate. Please come back and check that out live if you want to. We do that on YouTube every single week and also on Twitter. Please listen to the Football GM with Mike Sando and Randy Mueller on Saturday. If you guys have not, I highly encourage you to check that out. We'll be back after the games this weekend. Enjoy your holiday. Enjoy your Christmas if you celebrate. We'll talk to you guys soon.